again, Torrey Horton is getting a lot of buzz. Did have a touchdown in the preseason last night. Has looked good. So someone, again, in deeper formats, 18th to 20th round, you want to take a chance. But in a typical league with 16 rounds, I don't think you'll see him being drafted.
No, I think he could be on the waivers.
Yeah.
Again, depending on how deep your bench is too. That's all dependent. No tight ends is interesting.
So our tight end position is not required to start.
Oh,
so
okay.
tight ends were drafted. But
where did the line end up? Was it David Njoku, Travis Kelce, or did people? I'm trying to think if we've got the top 10, and once you get to 10, that's around Tucker Kraft territory. So I'm wondering where people drew the line with. I don't necessarily need a tight end, but if I want production, how far did they go?
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
Because that is interesting.
So wow, Dallas Goedert was drafted in the last round. Jonnu Smith was drafted in the last round.
I'm surprised.
Ferguson and Kincaid were drafted in 15. Pitts and Loveland in round 14. I did not take a tight end.
I was going to say, knowing you, I think I would have assumed that if you didn't get the good guys, were you the only one?
No, there were only 2 teams. Wait.
Really interesting.
2 teams didn't take a tight end. Wow. I was one of them.
I wouldn't. I mean, I
wonder if everyone read the rules. And I'm not joking about that. Like I told you, for the draft after me, I was speaking to a couple people before. So I drafted. Then there was the Superflex League draft, and I told them, and they were like, "What?" They looked up the rules, like, "Oh,
really?
Thank you." So yeah,
Maybe
and that's why I say it all the
thing.
time. And I know people laugh, like, "Oh, how could you not know the rules?" A lot of people don't look. They just go to a draft and assume it's the same from the previous year. And you got to look. There's so many different leagues. I mean, just the high stakes alone, there's different formats for all of them. Whatever platform you play on, different formats, different scoring systems. So don't assume just because you jump into the league, it's the same. You got to look. What do you start? Because people are changing things year to year. Now, your commissioner should be telling you at the beginning in an email if anything changes.
Yeah.
They should alert you or put it up for a league vote. Like, I don't think a commissioner should just make changes, don't say anything, and go, okay, here we go. And then you start the draft, and people go, hey, what about this? Oh, yeah, I made a change. Did you tell us? No. It's still your responsibility to look, but the commissioner should always alert people. But it is also the responsibility of the person drafting to go in and look. So I wonder how many people actually do.
Yeah. That's because I was going to say, I wonder, I thought the line was going to be drawn maybe at, the top 12 or maybe 13 tight ends, because it's funny again, these are just projections, so we can always be wrong on this, but at fantasylife.com, if you said Dallas Goedert was taken and he's projected for 110 fantasy points, that just to put it into perspective of wide receivers like that you could be getting, we have Marvin Mims projected for more fantasy points for the year. I just think that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, for me, if I'm in that spot, it's taking a backup running back or any running back that could potentially, because again, this draft was more than a month from the start of the season. So if I'm drafting like that, I want a running back because you never know. There could be an injury. And now all of a sudden I have that backup on my roster in the last round, don't have to spend fab. And now I got a player that's going to start. Where Goddard, he is only fantasy relevant if A.J. Brown or Smith miss. We've seen it time after time. He just does not produce enough. Even if you expect Philadelphia to pass more, which I do, he gives you a decent floor, but do you really want that in the last round when you don't have to start a tight end? Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. But again, when I'm referencing all the, we talked about projections, our rankings and stuff, that is live at fantasylife.com. I saw some questions about that yesterday. So you go to Fantasy Life, you go down to the tools drop down, and then you'll see projections, ADP, a trade analyzer. During the season, we've got the waiver wire tool. So everything is there for us to help you during the season. So use that code SXM20, gets you 20% off any Fantasy Life Plus Tier 1 or Tier 2 subscription. Speaking of more preseason action, maybe some more preseason injuries, Adam. Anthony Richardson, he dislocated his right pinky yesterday, which actually, from the hit that he took, I thought it was going to be way worse than that because he went down with another injury last night. We all remember for Anthony Richardson, he has missed 17 games with injuries in his first 2 seasons, but he hurt his pinky finger on his throwing hand during that preseason game last night against the Baltimore Ravens. But it looks like he's more, day to day. I don't think they expect him to miss significant time, which is good, Adam. But for a second there, I think everyone was holding their breath and saying, wow, is this really how Anthony Richardson's gonna start the season or go out of the season? So I saw an update just a couple minutes ago from Rappaport saying that the dislocated pinky checked out fine. He's considered day-to-day. And again, that's better news than what it could have been, I guess.
Yeah, obviously took a big hit and should have recognized the formation and had a running back open in the flat, but didn't see it at all. And injured that pinky and then didn't play much. So now you wonder if, because the plan was Richardson starts last night, Daniel Jones next week. So we saw a lot more Daniel Jones. I wonder now if Richardson is good to go next week, because they said he'll be back on the practice field in the coming days. If they make Richardson the starter next week, you would think that would be the case.
Yeah, I haven't seen them say anything, but again, like you said, it's good news that he came out of this, with just the dislocated right pinky, because that looked bad for a second, Adam. I was like, oh my goodness, here we go again. Any other preseason takeaways from the Colts? We'll just have to, again, it's a wait and see, but it looks like Anthony Richardson's day to day. Tyler Warren got some love last night. It's one of those things where maybe even though the situation around him with quarterbacks might be bad, it might be a situation where we just have to look around at him and say, all right, well, he's going to get targets. He's going to get the volume. He made his debut last night, and it was obvious that he was the top target when he was on the field. Again, yes, this is preseason. We try not to overreact, but sometimes they give us breadcrumbs. They show us what this is going to look like during the season. And for this Colts team, they have had an insane rotation at tight end throughout the years. And especially last season, you had Mo Cox, you had Ogletree, you had Granson. They all played, at some point, but none of those guys had over 200 receiving yards. So you get Tyler Warren, who we talk about draft capital all the time, was one of their top picks. And it feels like that was a, good fit for them. For fantasy football might be different, but has that changed your opinion of Tyler Warren at all? Have you been taking him much this offseason?
No, I like him. I've always said when you look at these tight ends and they're taken so early in the first round, teams have big plans for them. And as you mentioned, the Colts have just been lacking that tight end. Now, none of the starting wide receivers were there. But either way, I mean, Warren is in a spot where he should get pretty good volume. I think the only reason why you haven't really seen him rise are people are concerned about the quarterback for the Colts. Are they going to be able to get him the football? I mean, Warren's going to get a lot of short passes. You saw like a short pass over the middle, a play action crosser, and a couple, vertical passes. So you would hope that the quarterback can get him the ball. So I'm interested for sure. Definitely think he's going to be heavily involved in this offense.
And if you don't know Warren's profile, anyone listening, like he's a yak monster. We know that. Yards after the catch is something he's known for. And I think I've read a lot, Adam, that he just pairs perfectly with this Shane Steichen RPO heavy scheme. He's one of those guys where we look at the Colts, they rank first in RPO rate, 22% last season, fourth in play action, in 2 years under Shane Steichen. So I think he's going to be able to be schemed up to a lot of easy looks in space. And it's going to be, we talk about this new shiny toy, but this is one that we actually think is legit with Tyler Warren, even though, again, like you said, the quarterback situation is not great, but sometimes it's the talent, Adam. The talent kind of overtakes all of that. And we look around and we say, okay, it might not be the best situation, but the talent and the volume that he's going to get is making us, look at him. Is he inside your top 10 for your tight end rankings?
Yes.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. It's one that I think I need, we see these preseason games, Adam. I say, I need a little bit more. You get greedy. You go into drafts afterwards, you say, hang on a second.
But
I need to make sure.
That's the one thing that sucks about the preseason or training camp hype. If you are really high on a player and they do perform well, I don't want them to stink, especially if they're competing for a job, but I want them to keep it quiet.
You're like, Tyler, please sit down, drop a couple. Don't do this to me. Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, straight up. Is it Tyler Warren for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I have him a couple spots ahead in my rankings as well. But, curious about that. All right. And any word? So I see a question, and I saw this on Twitter, again, at Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis over there on X, excuse me. But Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, if people are looking at drafts, again, these are going to be late round draft picks. You're not walking away with Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones as your first and maybe even your second quarterbacks, Adam. But how are you kind of assessing the situation and going about, or it could just be that you're not drafting them and you're just saying, I need to wait to see how this quarterback battle does end up?
Yeah, in a super flex league, you're going to take one of them, right, at this point, as your third quarterback. So you're probably going to go, I think, in the one we just did for the Flex League draft last week, and Richardson went first. I did take Daniel Jones in the fishbowl, but that was, a month ago?
Yeah.
So, again,
yours, it might have been 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I think we just ended last night in our slow draft. But, yeah, typically, I think in a league, if you're starting one quarterback, you're probably not drafting them. Now, if you're in a 20-round draft, you want to take Anthony Richardson last couple rounds because, again, we know if he does get the opportunity, that rushing floor is really high. And if he can somehow just improve a little bit as a passer, and, adding Tyler Warren helps, Josh Downs. So there are some weapons there. But generally, I don't think you need to go there at this point. But in a super flex league, you have to draft them as your third quarterback. And probably Richardson at this point, slightly ahead of Jones. But again, we'll see next week.
Yeah, well, we will see next week. And we've got, like I said, more games coming up tonight and throughout the weekend. So we'll make sure to preview those a little bit, kind of go through more rookies, guys that we're just looking at that are buried down depth charts to see if they're able to step up in these preseason games starting this weekend. Last piece of news that I just want to make sure we get to here at the top of the hour, because we talked a lot about Tristan Wirfs and his injury. I just wanted to mention the Rashawn Slater injury because he's missing the whole 2025 season with a torn patellar tendon. Adam, this was a huge blow for the Chargers left tackle. I was reading all the reports, like obviously he was visibly upset. He was being carted off the field yesterday. So he just signed a 4-year, $113 million contract extension with the Chargers. So if you were wondering how good Slater was, if you needed a reminder, he was so important to this offense and to their plans this season. They talked about him a lot, obviously. So I'm curious to see how they move going forward, Adam. But since we talked so much about Wirfs, this is really a big blow to that offensive line. And I think it's worth mentioning for how much we've been talking about Omarion, Hampton, Justin Herbert going into 2025.
Yeah, these left tackles, when they go down, sometimes it really cripples the offense. So, that is a big injury right after he got that 4-year, $114 million contract. Well, at least he gets his money. Well, the guaranteed portion of it. And it looks like Joe Alt is probably going to move to left tackle. So, it's
which few teams have that, ability. It's not every day that you see, someone with Alt's talent being able to kind of swing over. He started 33 games at left tackle in college at Notre Dame. So, he's seen it before, but so he's got experience at left tackle. And like I said, not many teams have the luxury of replacing an all-pro with maybe someone that that people have said is future all-pro at a position that is so important all the way around. So, at least that'll be good. But it's definitely, they have to shuffle some cards here, Adam. And that's not an injury that you want ever. But going into how close we are to the season, missing that whole season for him, that's brutal. That was a brutal news report yesterday.
Yeah, these are the things that we hate to see, right? We always want to have that switch like a video game where we can turn off injuries. Unfortunately, we can't.
Wouldn't that be nice? God,
yeah.
That'd be amazing. Someone turned it on last year, though, for the running backs, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I don't know who did that, but maybe try it again. Maybe some of the receivers, though, this year, or the receivers that we're drafting, The Rashee Rices were brutal last season. Chris Godwin was brutal It was all brutal for some of the wide receivers last year. But again, going through all the news here at the top of the hour, that Rashawn Slater injury, again, he's going to miss the whole 2025 season with a torn patellar tendon. Really, really big loss for the Chargers. So we'll see if they swing Alt over there to that other side. Continuing on, Adam. And again, we are here to help you guys throughout your drafts. Any questions that you have for fantasy football, dynasty, keepers, anything, we are here to help. Make sure you're calling in in 888-963-2682 or press that new call-in button on the Sirius XM app at Valenzuela17 at Adam Ronis over there on X. We're going through, let's talk some tight end tiers. Let's go through some tight end tiers and see what our draft strategy is with this group of tight ends this season. We're going to go through that coming up next. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right here, Fantasy Life. Happy Friday. Hopefully everyone's having a great start to their day. It's not time to leave work yet, but we will get there. We will get there. Maybe halfway through the show, Adam. Maybe it's like a midday, mid-brunch. You know, you go out, you don't come back. Maybe that's how, that feels good today. It's a beautiful day here. How's you got a good day today? No?
Yeah, I think so.
Beach?
I actually have some work to do. I have an article for our Fantasy Life that's due over the weekend. So
text Nando. Say, Nando, I'm so sorry. I can't get this. I'm at the beach.
Ronis, it's crunch time. I can't give you any breaks. You got to get it done. We got a lot of content.
We do have a lot of content, which you guys can all check out at fantasylife.com. Look at that segue. SXM20 gets you 20% off any Fantasy Life Plus tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. So it gives you all the tools that we're talking about all show long, including some of our rankings and tiers. And we're going through tight end tiers and just our expectations for this group going into the season. We already know, Adam, you know, the big three. It's Brock Bowers, it's Trey McBride, it's George Kittle. Those guys are all in a tier of their own. And so we know that when we're referencing the elite tight ends, those are the guys that we're talking about. But I'm curious for you because I've seen it, you know, a lot of places written down at fantasylife.com, a bunch of, you know, I love when we have different opinions, but talent at the tight end position usually is kind of limited, right? You don't have this supply of great tight ends that I can wait on this guy and he's going to overproduce. He's going to outperform his ADP. We don't usually have that at this position. So it's like, unlike running backs that we talk about all the time where we say, hey, I'm going to wait, I'm going to go 0 RB, and then I'm going to go and on a run and get all these running backs at the back half of this draft. Tight ends, for that to even happen, they have to check a lot of skill-based boxes. They have to have a lot of value, and there's just not a lot of them. So this season, especially with those big three tight ends that we know are probably, you know, just going to stay atop the rankings all season long. What's your strategy this season? Has it been a lot more elite tight ends being drafted for you and then not having to worry about it? Or are you still waiting for, you know, the tier 4, tier 5 guys later in drafts to get those guys?
I tend to wait, but I am open to taking one of the top 3 tight ends. And I know the super flex leagues are different. So in the Sirius XM host league on Tuesday night, you could hear that on the app. If you missed it, I took Trey McBride in round 5 because he fell. So
that's good value.
Yeah. So if I can get a little bit of value on one of those top 3 tight ends, I'll do it. Now, George Kittle, we've talked about a lot all off season. He was the 5th round for a good portion, moved up to the 4th. I've done that in some best balls. It might be a little bit more difficult now. We'll see how much the price goes up because of the injuries at the receiver position for San Francisco. After that, then tend to wait and try and grab 2. And it can be risky because you can miss on both. So that's the key and tight end is always key to having a successful season. You know, last year took Dalton Kincaid in a couple leagues. Those teams weren't good. I had Trey McBride in a couple leagues. Those teams were really good. So hitting on that tight end is extremely important. Maybe you can stream a little bit with 2 tight ends and hope it works out and you play the matchups right. But and then these rookie tight ends, you mentioned Tyler Warren before. He has the ability to finish as a top 5 tight end if things go right. Obviously needs the quarterback to get him the football. Colston Loveland, we know the talent is there, but how much is he going to get the football? Are they going to use him a lot in the slot? Is he going to be a primary piece of the offense? So there's some questions there, but usually for a tight end to finish near the top, they either need to be top 2 on the team in targets or score a lot of touchdowns. And we know touchdowns can be fluky from year to year. But yeah, I don't know. Like, you can make a case for some of these tight ends outside the top 12, but it doesn't look good. When you start looking at them, you're like, you do not feel good about a lot of these tight ends.
Yeah, but that's like most of the time, except for,
Yeah.
last season. Of course, we've had some really great, I mean, rookies over the past couple of seasons giving us the production and the finishes in fantasy football that they have. Historically, we did not see that. And so coming into this season, it was like, okay, who's going to be the next Sam Laporta? Who is this year's Brock Bowers? And at some points, I think it was okay to say maybe we don't get those guys, overall tight end ones to finish in fantasy football. But like you said, if you're scrolling and you're looking through like like you said, a Colston Loveland, a Tyler Warren. I think just because they're in situations, and I think we can say this is true about both of them, but you say there's high target competition for both. And maybe, for Tyler Warren, you're looking at a situation where it's low, the passing projections aren't great. But at the end of the day, it feels like the same thing about the Brock Bowers situation. Not to say that either of those guys are Brock Bowers coming into 2025, but it was a bad quarterback. You had Devontae Adams, and you said, how the heck is he going to be able to get not only get the targets but perform in this offense? And look at what we saw last season. So that's just one more thing to say. We've been talking a lot about Tyler Warren today, but Tyler Warren is one that, again, I'm moving up my rankings, looking at him. Yeah.
So I'm looking at our ADP tool on fantasylife.com. I mean, the prices for him are ridiculous. At those prices, you have to take them if you're waiting on tight end. ESPN 133.8, Yahoo 121.2, CBS 124.5, RT Sports 128.2, Sleepers 100.6, even Underdog 112.2. And I'm not saying this just because he had 3 catches last night. That's where you go. If you're going to wait, you take the chance on a guy who was drafted in the first round, 14th pick overall. Yes, there is competition for targets in the quarterback, but absolutely take him at that spot. There's no question. But he is going to move up. We all know
he will,
it.
Yes.
People talked about him. The highlights are going out. But we already knew how talented he was. He was a first-round pick. But those prices, you got to be in on it. That's like the, 10th round?
Yes.
Yeah, 10th, 11th round.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Colston Loveland, too.
Yeah, I agree.
To be
I have
totally
him one spot
honest.
after.
Yeah, I feel they're very close for me, but I feel the same way about Colston Loveland with Tyler Warren, where it's like, I know that this situation, more so we're hoping for it's the target competition. We don't have to really worry about Caleb Williams through the air. But I just think, and then people, the presence of Cole Kmet because of the money that they gave him are kind of scaring them away a little bit. But I agree. I think those two, I've taken Tucker Kraft later in drafts as well. If I've been waiting, he's someone that I say, all right, if I'm going to go somewhere, because I do like Jordan Love this season to have that bounce back kind of campaign. If one of these, they say they have the alpha wide receiver now, but it's just he needs a few more targets to kind of get it done. But like you said, once you get past those big 3, if you're looking at, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, Hawkinson, Tucker Kraft, I'm usually walking away just in case with one more. Walking away with 2.
Yeah. Now, again, depends on the format and who you draft. So in the league I took McBride, I did not take a backup tight end.
Oh, yeah,
I feel in that situation. Now, am I taking a risk if he gets hurt? Sure. But the backup tight end that I draft, if I were to, it's the same thing. He's probably a waiver wire guy. So what's the point? I don't even know when the Cardinals bye week is because, again, I'm drafting.
It's week 6.
Is it? Don't tell me that.
It's sorry, hang on. It's during the bye-apocalypse that we have.
Okay, well, I'll worry about it then.
You want to worry about it now?
It's week 8.
Week 8, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm good. There'll be someone that emerges by then.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, it's 1 week. I'm not worried about it. Obviously, I need McBride to stay healthy. But, yeah, in that situation, I'm not taking one. But, again, I do a lot of leagues with 20 rounds. Most of my leagues, a lot of the high-stake leagues are 20 rounds. So, in those situations, I will take a backup tight end. But if I'm taking one of the top 3, that backup tight end is coming late. Now, unless I get a tremendous value on a tight end I really like. But most part, I think a lot of people are going to take 2 tight ends this year and trying to find that one that becomes an every week starter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, after the first 3, there's this tier 2 where you can see it, right? These are the other guys that have the potential. They're still going to put up fantasy points, like a Sam Laporta, a David Njoku, Evan Ingram, TJ Hawkinson, like I said. You could throw, if you wanted, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews in that tier. I personally don't have him in that tier, but it's one of those things where, projections wise, there's just a huge difference, Adam, though. That's what we look at in fantasy points from Bowers, McBride, and Kittle, then all the way down to the ones that I just named, like Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram. You hope that those guys hit. Evan Ingram, I know, has really risen up draft boards over the offseason because of that Joker role potentially with the Denver Broncos. You got a new team over there. Who's the guy? Who's the guy for you if you don't draft, if you don't get Bowers, McBride, or Kittle? We can't mention the other two rookie tight ends that we just said. Who have you been going with the most this offseason?
Damn.
You're like only those five.
Yeah, that's it. No one else.
I mean,
no, probably. I do like David Njoku.
Okay.
I know the quarterback situation is a little dicey. I do like Jake Ferguson too. Again, the Cowboys are going to pass a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that's been the biggest problem for him has been the lack of touchdowns. He had 0 last year. But again, when Dak played, his numbers were good. 2 years ago, he had 71 catches for 761 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, that came on 102 targets. Is that probably going to happen again? No, but he did have 86 in 14 games last year. Now, George Pickens is definitely cutting into that. There's no question. But if the Cowboys are going to put up 600 passes, that leaves room for Ferguson. So he often goes outside the top 12 tight ends. So I definitely think you can look at him. I still have a little bit of hope for Dalton Kincaid.
I was just going to ask about Kincaid. He's one that he's always sitting there in some of my drafts, and I'm like, oh, I am afraid. Should we not be? I mean, it's the injuries. Didn't he get injured this week? He was back out there.
Yeah, yesterday his ankle was being taped up. I didn't see any update after that, so I'm assuming he's fine.
I mean, his production has actually gotten worse. That's the thing.
He was hurt though last year. I mean, Matthew Berry had talked about it on a column a few months back, where he was talking to someone with the team and said Kincaid was never healthy and played through the injury. So
it's been knee, shoulder, concussion.
You can look at the other side of that and say, well, he had this knee issue and there was nothing done to fix it, right? There was no surgery or anything. So look,
his targets per route run is tight end one worthy, right? He's in the range to be able to do it at 26% targets per route run. But it's the playing time. I don't know.
Yeah, you hope that it increases and you hope that they get him the ball more. But that's why he's going outside the top 12 tight ends for the most part. So, I wouldn't mind pairing him with Ferguson if I'm going to wait. Like, I'd take a chance on those two.
Yeah, I took him, I think, once or twice, but it was one where I really looked at it for a long time, Adam. I milked the clock on that because I was like, I don't feel great about it. But then, you read, Dwayne McFarland did a great article on just potential breakout campaigns and what he looks at historically in year 3 for tight ends. The hit rates are like at 38% for first-time tight end ones compared to like 11% year 1, 17% in year 2. So if there's a potential breakout season, that's always good for us, especially when you're getting them that late. We talk about the running backs getting them late, hopefully getting some of those later wide receivers like an Emeka Egbuka that's able to climb the depth chart. But if you're able to hit on a late round tight end, that doesn't usually happen, and you feel really good about it.
And I also know you love Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm surprised you didn't mention him just to get me to say something.
Because I haven't.
He's late. I know.
I haven't taken him, but I think he's in the conversation.
He's late. He's going late enough. I'll give you this. Push the drama aside from me. He is going late enough where I can see people saying, you know what, as my second tight end, if this thing really does work out with Michael Penix and I like this offense, they don't have Kirk Cousins back there anymore. He could get more. I get it. It just won't be me. But I'll be cheering you guys on.
He burns you too often.
I think he burned everyone too often.
He has, but you're not paying a top 7 price anymore. And if it doesn't work out, like you could watch the beginning of the season, and if you see same old Kyle Pitts, you can cut him and move on.
He's only 24 years old, by the way. He's actually 23 right now, and he doesn't turn 24 until October what? Do you know? When's his birthday?
18th.
Hang on, I'm Googling it. I don't know. 6th, you're wrong.
Oh,
tough.
No, and I said plus 12, minus 12.
Oh,
That's
got
what I
it,
said.
got it, got it. Then
Yeah.
you're correct. Congratulations.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
I mean, all that to say, like, I'm not doing it again, like I said. But he doesn't turn 24 until October. I just look at like Ray McLeod out targeted him last season. I know this could be different with Penix, but I don't know. He's cheap. He's cheaper than usual. So go for it.
Yeah, and with that said, I don't even know if I have any, but I do think
You're defending Kyle Pitts and you have no exposure.
it just hasn't worked out.
No, I get it.
I probably have him ranked higher than you. I know that.
Oh, 1,000%, because I think
you
I
have him outside the top 20?
No, I think I have him right at 20 though.
Oh, okay.
So
I
I'll tell you
definitely have him
that.
higher.
I actually might have moved him to 19 with the Isaiah Likely injury, which I haven't seen an update on. Not that that moves the needle too much, but I think I did switch them in my rankings, which you guys can all go find at fantasylife.com. But yeah, you go ahead, Adam. You go ahead and do Kyle Pitts, and we can talk about it mid-October. His birthday. I'll make sure to make a schedule and talk about him on his birthday for us. It'll be great.
I'm sure we'll definitely have a conversation by then.
Again, tight end rankings, tiers, everything live at fantasylife.com. Use that code SXM20, gets you 20% off any Fantasy Life Tier 1 or Tier 2 subscription. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis here to help you with your fantasy football drafts. Phone number to call in, 888-963-2682, or you can send us a message over there on X, at KValenzuela17, at Adam Ronis, because we are here to help you guys dominate this season. We're going to continue on, Adam, we talked through tight end tiers. I want to talk through more quarterback draft strategy. We've gotten some questions about, when is it time to take the elite quarterbacks? Is this the year where we should really be paying up for those guys? We're going to give you some answers to that and some later round quarterbacks that we also like coming up next. Of course, I've got you covered. Folgers has got you covered. We've had callers this week saying they love Folgers. They're on vacation with their families, Adam, saying that. Why would they not take the time to let us know that they love Folgers?
Who drinks Folgers on vacation? They don't serve that. Come on.
You get the big tin of it, and then you bring it on family vacation. What do you mean?
No, that's absurd.
Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do? Will you go to a nice coffee shop every day?
Well, wherever you are, you get some coffee.
You've got money.
Nah, okay. Well, that's true. Coffee is very pricey now.
I was gonna say it's kind of expensive. That's why I go for it. But I do.
What isn't expensive anymore?
Well, that's true. Yeah, but why should your coffee be when you could get a nice? And it's delicious. I'm telling you, it's delicious.
Well, see, if you're going to invest money, it needs to bring you money back. That's why you subscribe to fantasylife.com. Promo code SXM20.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Look, if
I
you
like
play in
it.
a bunch of fantasy leagues, you invest. We can't guarantee victory, but we're almost certainly going to get you to the playoffs. And then, of course, that variedness, the randomness comes in.
Unless you're on ESPN, remember? Then we expect you to win. We expect you to at least win the drafts.
Because those some of those ADPs prices are insane.
But we are here to help you win. To be totally honest, that's our expectations for ourselves every single year. And the advice we give you guys is the advice we obviously follow for ourselves. So that's why I think I'm really excited for this conversation, Adam, because, and we'll take this for a while, but quarterback strategies this season, they're a little bit different than in years past. It's a really interesting place to be in, because a lot of the times I'll find myself saying, I don't need to get this elite quarterback. I don't need the elite dual threat guy, because I can potentially get one of those guys later. Last season, we were pounding the table for Jayden Daniels. We were saying there is no way this guy should be going this late in fantasy football drafts. And it obviously paid off. And he was someone that not only he was good on the ground, he is hopefully going to continue getting better through the air. This season, we don't really have a Jayden Daniels going outside the top 10, top 12. We can mention a Justin Fields. We can hope that Drake Maye hits. But at the end of the day, when we say Drake Maye, Trevor Lawrence, JJ McCarthy, we understand that those guys could burn us. And we're not necessarily saying, hey, we love them as our one and only quarterback. So this season, Adam, when you're looking at quarterback draft strategy, and if I just mention, let's say the top 5 and put Jalen Hurts, obviously Joe Burrow at the end of that, because of the running backs and the wide receivers from picks, let's go 26 to 48. We talk about opportunity cost a lot. Is it not more beneficial, because we've been saying that sometimes you don't like the wide receivers in that range, sometimes we're not totally enamored with the running backs. Is this a season where you find yourself maybe taking one of those elite quarterbacks earlier than instead of waiting?
Definitely open to it now more than I have been in the past. Now, it also does come down to what your platform is and what your setup. if you start 3 receivers and 2 flex spots, I find it difficult to go quarterback. I think if you start 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex, I think it's absolutely more enticing to take that elite quarterback because there's enough depth that you can fill the other positions and to get that advantage. Because once you take that top 5 quarterback, you're set. You don't have to worry about a second quarterback because, again, you are starting that elite quarterback every single week. I don't care what the matchup is for Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. You could tell me, oh, this defense, they're number 1. I don't care. Those are elite players for a reason. You're starting them every week. There's no reason. Don't have that debate. Do I start Joe Burrow or Drake Maye this week? Drake Maye has a terrible defense. No, you play Burrow. Yes, Drake Maye might outscore him by a little bit, but it's Joe Burrow. Like, he can do it against anyone. So it just gives you that comfort level. Once you take that elite quarterback, that's it. You're set. Now you can just worry about building all your other positions. You don't have to worry about a second quarterback. I would even say in a league with 20 rounds, you get one of those elite quarterbacks, you don't have to draft a second quarterback. I know everyone else will, but there'll be someone on waivers. I'll probably still do it, but it'll be late in the draft. But you can absolutely do it this year because, as we've talked about, I just don't feel very confident in a lot of those receivers that go in rounds 3 or 4. So in home leagues, though, you probably will see the quarterbacks go earlier. You will see some round 2, right? Absolutely. I'm not doing round 2 for a quarterback, but I'm more open in round 3 depending on what's on the board. So like we're looking at the ADPs here on this ADP tool on Fantasy Life. You got Josh Allen is 21, 22, 21, 17, 31 on RT Sports. That I'm more open to. Right, that's more at the end of the third round. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, similar. So those two a little bit early. Let's see who's next. We got Jaden Daniels, 27, 29, 28, 24, 38 on RT Sports. So they're falling a little bit later on RT Sports. Yeah. Jalen Hurts, same thing. Jalen Hurts like 4th round.
I know.
Like 40,
Jalen Hurts.
40 on Sleeper, 40 on CBS, 49.8 on RT Sports. And Joe Burrow is after that.
He's going in the like 4th round, middle of the 4th round too. 43.
I will say this.
44.
So Joe Burrow, I've seen in like the high stakes leagues, people are taking Burrow at 3 at the 3rd round because they're trying to get that stack with Chase. So keep that in mind.
Well, and Joe Burrow's the last of like that elite, that tier that we talk about. I don't want to throw elite out there, but when we compare him to Josh Allen, Jalen, of course, Lamar Jackson, but he is definitely like the last one in that tier where you say, okay. And I think we're going to continue on with this conversation because I want to go through where we're comfortable taking these guys and where we say, you know what, at this point in the draft, at this round specifically, I'm just going to go ahead and pass on quarterbacks because I like these players more. But there is a very distinct difference from this season, Adam, to last year, especially when we're talking about, the alpha wide receiver ones. Like last year, you had to pass on Nico Collins to take an elite quarterback in the 3rd round. We do not have that this season. So we're going to continue this conversation talking about the values that you can get, the opportunity cost as well. We're going to do that coming up next. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us right here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis with you on this Friday. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, going through and finishing up our quarterback strategy walkthrough for the 2025 season. Some strategies we're looking at, some strategies that we're saying, okay, when we look at some of the running backs and wide receivers, Adam, just to reiterate from picks 26 to 48, which is the elite quarterback range, there's some that have question marks. And I think, the biggest one for me and the one I've got questions from my friends most recently, even last night, is like, hey, what, Joe Burrow going potentially in the, it depends on who you're drafting with. Like you said, you're in the those high stakes leagues. He's going in the 3rd, but in the 4th round, like you're around guys like with I'm looking at sleeper ADP. Let's just take that, for example, with Joe Burrow in the 4th round. You've got Alvin Kamara there, Devontae Adams, Rashee Rice, Joe Mixon, DJ Moore. Just an example of some guys where like there's some question marks here. Why would I not just go with Joe Burrow? So not to say that we're completely throwing away the, wait on quarterback, go get someone else. But again, it's just a huge difference from this year to last year, where we had guys like Jayden Daniels going way later that we said, I'm going to take a chance and hope that he's there, and I'm going to try and get him later in my drafts. And that meant that you didn't need that elite quarterback. But it just feels a lot different this season, from all the way at the top, of course, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and then you've got Jayden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Those seem like the guys.
Yeah, and look, every year there are quarterbacks that are drafted late or come off the waiver wire. The key is, can you identify them? And it's easy to sit here at the end of the year like we did last year. Well, yeah, I knew Baker Mayfield was going to go. That's why I took him late. No, you didn't. Okay, I don't care how high you were on Baker Mayfield. If you really loved him, you weren't taking him in round 15. You weren't picking him up off the waiver wire. So you got to identify those guys, which is difficult, right? Because we have several in mind, but some of them are going to disappoint. So I understand why it's difficult to take that elite quarterback, because what you're passing up, if there are guys in that area that you really like and you might believe in a Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy, Dak Prescott, there's a lot of options there that potentially could finish top 10. I don't see any of those guys finishing top 5. Like Jayden Daniels, we saw the case for it last year. Like, it was pretty obvious that he was going to run a lot and the potential was there.
Yeah.
This year, it's a little bit more risky. I got to say, I tend to wait more, but there are a part of me that's like, you should grab one of these elite quarterbacks.
I am in the same place as you. I tend to wait, but sometimes, Adam, I'm looking around like last season, and I didn't take as many of the elite running backs, or the running backs that changed teams and they were going a little bit later, the Saquon Barkleys, the Derrick Henrys, and I was having some FOMO, Adam. I'm not going to lie. So I'm still going to continue targeting, the guys that we've talked about a lot. I still like to take a chance on Caleb Williams. I like Justin Fields this year, a Drake Maye. But once we get into that range, it's, making sure that I'm taking, because we talked about this, but when I take an elite quarterback, I'm usually done. I don't say to myself, well, what if they get injured? What happens with the bye week in week 8 when it's bye Mageddon? I'm going to worry about that when that comes up a couple weeks before, and I'm going to get a quarterback streamer. But when it's these other guys, the Justin Fields, the Caleb Williams, I'll probably play it safe and make sure that I'm taking one more just in case it doesn't work out, or just in case something happens. Yeah, you always want to be prepared.
You can get them late. That's the thing.
Exactly. Very late. Very late. We're going to continue on here. It is time for the Fantasy Life Water Cooler. We're going through the fantasy news and notes that we've been seeing throughout training camp. We've got huge injury updates that we need to give you as well. We're going to the water cooler and taking your phone calls. Make sure you call in. We're doing that all next. ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, doesn't matter where you draft. You're going to dominate already because you're hanging out with us, Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis, right here on Fantasy Life, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, and you're hanging out at fantasylife.com. That's how you're going to do well in your drafts and during the season with your management of your team. So again, fantasylife.com, that's where you want to go if you want to check out the ADP tools that we've been talking about. We've got great upgrades to the website if you haven't already gone and seen it, so you can check out different ADPs across different platforms. We've got all of our rankings updated every single day, our projections as well. We talked about, Adam, how important it is to get ready for your drafts. If you're interested in mock drafts, we've got Draft Champion over there at fantasylife.com as well. So you can do that mock draft simulator. You can make sure all your league settings are imported, and you can draft based on where you're going to draft in real life, which has helped me a ton as well. And so much more is over there. We've got the Best Ball Hub Live, the Utilization HQ, everything that you need to make the correct picks in your draft this season. Again, fantasylife.com. Make sure you use that promo code, though, SXM20. We've got the best listeners, so you guys get to, and you should have 20% off. SXM20 gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. So either the choice is yours. Just make sure you head over there to fantasylife.com. We're in the water cooler now, though, Adam. We're making sure that we're going through all the pieces of news that we've seen over the last couple of days, especially in training camp, especially with preseason games going on, and we're making sure that you guys are all caught up on the latest news and the action items that we have during draft season. So let's get into it. Saw a couple updates from John Lynch for the San Francisco 49ers that I just wanted to mention. None probably surprising, but there is still no timetable for Jauan Jennings to return to practice or to action, is what he said. And then the other one was that he said that he doesn't think Brandon Ayuk will be ready for week 1. So we can start with Brandon Ayuk here. I've seen a couple questions on him throughout the week, but Brandon Ayuk is rehabbing from that ACL and MCL injury that happened last October. He's still on the physically unable to perform list. And again, this was yesterday, John Lynch saying that there's really not a true timetable for him to return, but he says, I don't think it'll be week 1. I'm hopeful, but I'm surprised. We'll see. Again, not shocking news with Brandon Ayuk here, Adam, but if you're going into drafts, my one thing is that if you want to take a chance on Brandon Ayuk and you have an IR spot, it's way easier to do that with that IR spot, because then you really don't have to worry. You know, if he starts the year on PUP, he misses the first 4, you're kind of okay, and you're not necessarily that he'd be a waste of a roster spot, but you're not having to worry about it as much. It's the conversations that we have to get into if you don't have that IR spot, if you're willing to take a Brandon Ayuk, because obviously the risk feels like it's baked into his ADP. He's not a super expensive pick because of this injury.
Yeah, and with injuries too, oftentimes we can overreact because we're playing a 17-week season, or so we hope. Not everyone, unfortunately, not everyone can make the championship.
Everyone listening is, though.
Yes, exactly. So you guys are playing 17 weeks. So, yeah, if a player misses the first few weeks, it can hurt, but we're all about the long term. With that said, players coming off injuries, you have to worry. There's a little bit more risk. With Ayuk as well, he did not look good last year when he was on the field. And boy, these 49ers, it's every year. They have so many injuries, and it is already starting for them. So you mentioned Ayuk. Yeah, he's definitely fallen. His ADP really varies across sites. It's 161 on our good friend ESPN, 101 on Sleeper, 125 on Yahoo, 100 on CBS, 111 on RT Sports. So, yeah, FFPC, 142.4. Wow. So, yeah, the high stakes leagues are like, yeah, I'm out.
They're like, I don't want to deal with it. No,
but I can understand that because we just don't know the timetable for him, and he's coming off these injuries. So I have generally passed on him. But if you are in a league with IR spots, I believe I have only 2. So it's a little bit easier to take him there because you put him on an IR spot and go pick up a free agent to cover him. And then when he comes back, and hopefully he comes back and he's good, then it's like picking up a big free agent. But I do have concerns about the way he looked the last year.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't exactly performing up to incredible standards, to be totally honest. And so that's understandable why you're still kind of questioning that, because again, you miss a large chunk of the season. Once healthy, we say to ourselves, it's going to take time for him, right, to ramp back up. There's always a hope, though, that maybe it's still Brandon Ayuk and they really desperately need him down the stretch. And in the fantasy playoffs, we say, okay, that's been enough time now where he can boom when we really need him to. But like you said, like if Jauan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall play well earlier, I don't think the team's going to need to feel the need to rush him back necessarily. So I think a wide receiver 5 right now, he has proven wide receiver 2 upside, but just one of those things where we didn't necessarily see it last season. Then he went down with that. It was a brutal injury that he sustained. So it's not the things aren't necessarily going in his favor going into 2025.
No, not right now. It's not looking good for him, and it's all setting up for Ricky Pearsall. Right at this point, he's one of the few healthy receivers at this point, and we did see him
semi-healthy though, right? He still had a hamstring injury recently.
No, that was he's been practicing. That was in the off season.
I thought it was like 2 weeks ago he missed a practice or 2. Let me check.
He's been practicing.
Again, you're right
day.
though. You're right though. He is the next guy up, and Jauan Jennings, if he gets his contract situation figured out, that's the other big thing. Like injured and waiting for a contract, or he said, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, this team, man, like everyone is like loving the 49ers because of that easy schedule, but once again, a lot of injuries.
Yeah, it's
every year with them.
Brutal. I know. fans have to be annoyed by that. I mean, everyone's annoyed by it, but I would, especially with, not to say it's a training staff thing, but
It could
kind
be,
of,
right? I mean, if
I
it's the
mean,
same thing
when you
over and
look at
over.
when you look at it like this, and it is the same. I mean, those running backs last season. Now we're getting over to the wide receivers. Like, yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned about it. But Ricky Pearsall, at the end of the day, is he going to be your most drafted 49er? Besides, I'm leaving out George Kittle because I feel like George Kittle is in a tier of his own. We've talked about the tight end tiers, and we did that earlier today. But we know George Kittle is in the big three, right? It's Brock Bowers, it's Trey McBride, it's George Kittle. So I've been taking a good amount of him if I'm able to, and if he's in that range that I like. But besides him, is it Ricky Pearsall for you?
I already have a lot. I think I took him in both of my drafts last week. I know I took him in the Scott Fish Bowl. So, yeah, right now I have a lot. I'm just kind of surprised that the price has not moved up. I don't understand it at all right now. Like, how is he not going higher?
Yeah, they're all pushed together too. Jauan, Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall. I mean, they're really close, especially on Sleeper.
I don't think it should be close right now. I think it's Pearsall above them.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a whole run. He's got a whole runway too. I mean, Jauan Jennings not out there. I know we talk about rookies more specifically not being out at training camp, but it's important for everyone to be out there to get up to try at least to get up to game speed. And I know it's not the same as actually being out there for, week one of the season, but for Jauan Jennings, and then there's other noise going on with the contract situation. So if there was ever a clearer runway, it's really right here for Ricky Pearsall to kind of take this whole thing over.
He was a first-round pick. He's in his second year. He had a rough season last year, getting shot, the injuries. When he got the opportunity late in the year, we saw some big performances from him, and he's the healthy guy now. So, yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple sometimes, right?
He flashes in a full-time role over those. It was like the last two games of the season, right?
Yeah,
he had 23.8 points per game, 22% target share. If that tells us anything of like maybe what's to come when we saw that last season, then yeah, for Pearsall. And even if you look, like you said, people might forget he's recovering from the preseason gunshot wound. So he averaged only 8.5 points per game. But you look at everything else around him, like you said, they invested a first round pick in him. The door is open for him to really establish himself, especially Adam, like I said, pulling back to this news, no real timetable for Brandon Ayuk to return. So if it really is him starting on PUP and being out for the first 4 games, and then maybe more to get back up to speed, it's going to be good for Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall to the moon, you can say it.
Well, based on my drafts and my rankings, it's probably been that way. So hopefully it'll probably change, especially well, I haven't seen. I haven't looked at all the teams. Is he playing in the preseason? I don't even know. Probably not, right?
They can't risk that. I'm going to be totally honest.
Yeah, I've seen Caleb Williams is not playing in the preseason.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at that too. Maybe they're like, you know what? Let's not expose him.
Let's not try to make this. Yeah.
Let's see. 49ers, the 49ers play Saturday against Denver.
They said he's a name to watch, so maybe he gets. I mean, he's not going to be out there long, though. To be totally honest,
probably not, especially with all the injuries they've endured. They're like, we need to keep him in bubble wrap. But yeah, I'm just surprised at how he hasn't moved up more with everything going on with this team.
So I've seen this, and again, this is us speculating, so there's nothing to this, but I do wonder if people have questions of if Jauan Jennings' injury is kind of like a Terry McLaurin injury right now, where he actually just wants to get the new contract and he wants to wait for the new contract. He said he was going to come to camp, and he did, and that's the other side of this, Adam, is that he was practicing at camp, so it wasn't, a hold-in situation. He was out there, but I'm curious if people think that maybe Jauan Jennings, the injury isn't something that they're necessarily worried about, that they think it's more a contract thing and he doesn't want to get hurt during training camp.
It could be. I mean, I think, Lynch said there's no timetable for a return with Jennings. So, yeah, I mean, it could be. It's certainly these guys now obviously are showing up because they don't want to get fined and just not practicing. And
yeah. But that wouldn't move the needle for you at all, it feels like. Even if that was the case and he was more holding in, you would still have Ricky Pearsall ahead.
I think it would be closer, but yeah, I mean, look, you got to love what you saw from Jennings last year. The concerns are he is 28. He was a 7th round draft pick, and that was like the first big year we saw for him. Now, at the same time, that was really when he got his first big opportunity, and he did thrive. But they spent a 1st round pick on Pearsall. They're pretty high on him, and he's the healthy guy right now, and he is in camp, and I think there's a lot to say for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. So again, keeping an eye on Brandon Ayuk. Again, no timetable for him, no timeline for Jauan Jennings, but it doesn't look like for Brandon Ayuk, per John Lynch, that they're expecting him to be ready for week 1. So again, if you've got that IR spot, it's a lot easier to draft him. If you don't, just make sure you're ready to take zeros potentially for week 1 and maybe for the first 4 weeks of the season. The last report I want to get to here, because this has been huge topic of discussion, and then we're going to get to the phone lines. So if you guys want to make sure you're calling in 888-963-2682 or press that new call-in button on the Sirius XM app. You can, if you're on hold, we absolutely see you. We're going to get to you here, but just wanted to do an update from Jordan Rodrigue from The Athletic, who does a great job. And she reported that the Rams aren't worried about Matthew Stafford's back injury or back status for the upcoming season. Again, this is one where we're just going to have to watch. I did see that Stafford will work out before their preseason game going up against the Cowboys, so that'll tell us a lot of things. I know that he's not taking part in next week's joint practice with the Chargers, but if we do see him out there practicing, that's probably a better step than anything else, Adam.
Yeah, this is definitely a big storyline, mostly because of the receivers who are being drafted early, and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, right? I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is the backup, so not the worst situation, but you really want Stafford out there. So, again, you can never trust what these teams tell us.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are going to push Puka down a little bit, but like, how far can you push him down at this point, right? Because again, Stafford could be ready week 1. We just don't know.
I'm not moving him yet until they say actually he's not gonna. They told us he's going to practice next week. I believe is what the report said, just not doing the joint practice. So I'm going to wait and see it, because you're right. It's really, it becomes hard to push him down much more. But you and I talked about it before the show started. We've seen him go towards the end now of the first round. I don't think he ever falls out of the first round, but people are a little worried. And I think there's reason to be a little bit right here with Matthew Stafford.
Well, then you see a guy that goes a little after him. I don't know if you saw this, but Ladd McConkey hasn't practiced since like late July. So there's another guy. So, there's some questions there all of a sudden. You know, you were feeling good about like the first 15. And now you're like, Puka and his quarterback. Ladd McConkey, not been practicing.
Are we going to have to talk about Keenan Allen then? What are we doing?
Right? Yeah.
No, we're not going to go that far yet.
And they haven't said what the injury is for Ladd either. And
is it undisclosed?
Yeah, that was the one biggest thing too with McConkey. He was hurt a lot in college too.
Yeah, he's coming in with a long injury history, which we don't like to say that guys are injury prone necessarily. I at least don't like to do that. Missed another practice due to an unspecified injury.
His upper leg has been wrapped in camp. He hasn't practiced since July 28th.
Woof.
And
they said
guard,
he's working through something
Becton hasn't been practicing either. Chargers are another team
Chargers
when it comes to injuries.
They're in, well, especially with Slater yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, this could be one where, it's not good, to say the least. But again, we try not to overreact, but it is something to... Ladd hasn't moved, though, in drafts, to be honest. His ADP?
Yeah, because
he hasn't gotten cheaper.
I don't think people have kind of seen this. This kind of just came out. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, I'm seeing another day 16, and that was yesterday for Ladd McConkey not practicing. And Mekhi Becton hasn't been
practicing either, so.
Will Dissly, too. I know you were worried about that.
Yeah, very worried.
I just had to throw
big concern.
Oh, man, please, injury gods, we don't need this one yet. We'll continue to monitor it. That's why we talk through the water cooler. That's why you want to go to fantasylife.com and subscribe to that newsletter as well, fantasylife.com. That newsletter is in your inbox 7 days a week, 100% free, and we always keep you updated over there. Let's go out to the phone lines now, though. If you've got any kind of questions for fantasy, if you're looking at keepers, superflex, whatever format, doesn't matter. We are here to help. So let's go out to Vernon in Arizona. Vernon, what do you got for us? Potentially. If not, Vernon, you can give us a call back, and hopefully we can answer your question there. If we can, let's go out to Joe in the Bronx. Maybe you guys can meet up there, Adam. Let's go out to Joe in the Bronx. Joe, what do you got for us?
Hey, hi. Good morning. So I'll be quick. It's a 12-team, half-point PPR, one-keeper league. So a good portion of the upper-tier first round will be kept. I could keep McCaffrey. I drafted number 7, or I'm considering rolling the dice. The 4 players I think that'll be available to me if I put McCaffrey back in would be Puka, who you were just talking about, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Austin Gentry.
Ooh, I like that. All right, appreciate you calling in, Joe Joe in the Bronx. I love that. Adam, what would you do here again? 12-team, half-point PPR, one keeper, but it's CMC in the first at pick 7 is where Joe's at.
I don't know what the other options are because he said if he kept CMC, these are the 4 available, correct?
No, he said he said if he threw CMC back, those would be the 4 available.
Oh.
Yeah.
Again, it all comes down to your perspective on CMC. I'm not as high on him as others. Like, there are people who are really pushing him up, saying he's healthy now, and you look at that San Francisco team and all of the injuries, and he's going to get a massive workload. He didn't look great in the 4 games last year. He's 29. He's had massive workloads. I do see the other side. Could he easily be the number 1 fantasy running back? Absolutely. I just have concerns about him staying healthy, so I wouldn't keep him if it was me, especially at 7. You might be able to, well, no, if you're picking,
because you'd get one of these guys.
Well, yeah, so he probably wouldn't get him back. He'd be gone. But for me, I would not keep him.
Who would you go with then? Genty?
Or St. Brown, one of those two.
Okay, yeah, I figured I like Genty or St. Brown there. But again, it all depends, like you said, Adam, on what people believe for Christian McCaffrey. There's going to be people,
if he believes in CMC and he's like, I disagree with you, he's healthy right now.
Then you keep him.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just not as high on everyone else as everyone else. And it could absolutely burn me. Like I said, if I was doing 10 leagues, I would take CMC in 1.
Yeah. And you can look at, I mean, even though it wasn't good, what we saw from his games coming back last season, he at least got this workload where we said, okay, if he gets that again, obviously he will. He could outperform. So I'm agreeing with you there. But again, Joe, if you like CMC, then you keep him, because that is, you want to keep the guys that you like and not necessarily feel any type of way, feel any regrets about it either. Let's continue on here. Adam, let's go out to Max in New York. Max, what do you got for us?
Hey, I have a kind of an IDP question, but so I'm sorry if you guys have talked about Travis Hunter previously, but I have the second pick in a 12-team league. It's half PPR. We start one defensive player, and I guess I'm just kind of curious. It is a Yahoo league, and I don't know if you guys have seen much, but it seems like based off what I'm reading is Yahoo will allow you to start him, you know, in a defensive spot, but still get his receiver points, if I'm reading correctly. So I'm just curious if on when it comes back to me in the second and third round, if like the third round, you know, the start of the third round would be too early to draft a guy like Travis Hunter in this type of league.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question. And never apologize. We always like to talk about Travis Hunter. It doesn't matter where or when. I think there is a Travis Hunter dilemma, to be totally honest here, Adam, because we heard this week from Liam Cohen. He said, you know, I'm expecting 80% of him to have 80% at wide receiver of the snaps. And so if he plays predominantly wide receiver, is half the talent we think he is, and he has this positional eligibility as, like we said, on the defensive side of the ball. Is he worth it to take him at this spot? What would you think here?
So there's actually an article on Fantasy Life, I think it was 2 days ago, talking about Travis Hunter and his eligibility in different leagues. So, so for Yahoo, it's saying that in leagues that use only offensive roster positions, Hunter will be eligible at receiver. In leagues that include both offensive and defensive roster positions, he'll be eligible at both receiver and corner. In IDP leagues, this is for Yahoo, Travis Hunter will be drafted as one player and is eligible to fill either a receiver or cornerback roster spot. His offensive and defensive production will count regardless of what spot he fills in your lineup. The thing is, with cornerbacks, they don't score a lot in fantasy unless he's being picked on and he gets a lot of tackles. interceptions. So I think that would be too early, but I'd have to sit there and do the math. Like second, third round still seems early, right?
Well, yeah, it does seem early, but if he earns points for everything he does on offense and defense, regardless of which position you play him at, that to me makes me think that it would be worth it. But we would have to go do the math on it.
Yeah, because I just don't want to tell you yes or no now without really digging into it further. Because, like, it also depends on the scoring. Because, like, cornerbacks don't score a lot in IDP leagues unless they're getting picked on a lot. Because then if they're throwing it at that corner a lot, then they get a lot of tackles, right? Interceptions, it's not like you don't see a corner get, like, 10 interceptions in a season. There's passes deflected. There's assists. So usually cornerbacks don't score a lot in fantasy. And if you're an elite corner, you don't score a lot because they don't throw at you.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna pick on him though, don't you?
Oh, what, to see if he's fatigued?
Yeah, to see if he can do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's my thing, because we heard Travis Kelce say that, where he's like, they're really gonna let him go out there and play both ways, we're just gonna throw it at him all day to get him gassed.
Well, then if he is gassed, then he can't even make tackles or interceptions,
or,
right?
or play, wide receiver. I don't know. I think with the dual eligibility, when we talk about Travis Hunter, to play him in a defensive slot, does that not give you the ability to put out an extra receiver, like an extra offensive player?
Yeah.
No?
So yeah, that's the thing. So
That's
say
the
you
thing.
put
So
him
that's
at
why I think
receiver, now you're getting now you're
so
getting
that's why I think it's worth it a little bit. But again,
But he said he starts one. Did he say one IDP player or one defensive back?
Max, are you still here? Now we're gonna keep going with this.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to chime in because, we start one defensive player. So what my plan was with him would be to put him in the defensive spot. That fills my one defensive spot. And then I get his wide receiver stats, and then I still can start, my normal receiver. So I feel like if he's getting, 10 to 15 or, 10, 15 plus points, that's a lot more than my normal normal defensive players. Just so you guys know, in this league, we usually start like a linebacker because they
score
tackles,
the most,
try to get tackles. And so we usually get like, a good defensive player will usually get maybe like 8 to 12 points, but not really more than that unless you get lucky and score, a pick six or something like that.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. That makes sense then because, you're getting a wide receiver in the defensive spot, scoring too. So, I can see that then. Yeah, that makes sense. You might have someone take him a little bit earlier, though, if they're listening to your call or they figure that out,
Hopefully none of your friends are here. But I think
it's a
good question. Those IDP leagues with Travis Hunter, we have never seen any. And I appreciate you calling in, Max, and staying on the line, because that was one that we had to talk through ourselves. But that's what makes it so interesting with Travis Hunter, because you expect him to be this cheat code, because on the other side, like when you place him in those IDP leagues, like I said, the dual eligibility to be able to give him that defensive slot and then have the ability to have an extra offensive player in your wide receiver spot is huge.
Yeah, again, there is an article on this on Fantasy Life by Jonathan Fuller, so I would advise to check it out for different leagues. I know, so I used to do multiple IDP leagues. I only have one. It's my home league, and I had someone in my league asking me about that, but I think in our league, he's only eligible at receiver, but he is going to get the defensive points.
All right. Appreciate everyone calling in here. We're going to continue taking your phone calls as well. Please, Adam, should we do more IDP questions? Because that was kind of fun to break down.
I'm not ready yet. I have my IDP league. I haven't really dug in. So
I liked breaking that one down with Max over there. 888-963-2682 is the phone number to call in. We're going to continue on here. It is time now for the Mike's Hard Reach of the Week. Guys we're reaching for in drafts. We don't care what their ADP looks like. We're ready to go and get them. We're going to do that coming up next. As always, you guys are the best. Appreciate you hanging out with us here today. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis, and every day right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm going to tweet out. I've already gotten questions on that article, Adam. I'm going to tweet it out from Jonathan Fuller here in a second. I just want to make sure to tag him over on X so that we can give him some love. But it is a great article. If you were just listening, talking through Travis Hunter and ways that he is going to be scored in different leagues. And it's really good information to know. So I'll tweet that out here in 1 second. But first, Adam, we have to talk through our Mike's Hard Reach of the Week. And guys that we are reaching on this week that maybe we talked about throughout the whole week, but now it's time to wrap it up with a bow and tell you guys why we like them. I want to start with the obvious one because we've had great conversations on Emeka Egbuka every single day, especially with, the timeline or the lack of timeline for Chris Godwin, talking about guys that are probably going to continue getting training camp love, meaning that they are going to start rising up draft boards. Emeka Egbuka is that guy, though. He is, when we look around, probably going to be someone that we look back on Adam and say, why wasn't I taking him more when he was a little bit cheaper? But Emeka Egbuka coming into this offense with, Chris Godwin again, we hope that he is healthy and ready for the season. But what Emeka Egbuka can bring to this offense if he isn't, even with this crowded wide receiver room, he's going to challenge. And Emeka Egbuka, I think, is a player that maybe potentially, it just depends on our early season lineups. We have to wait a little bit, but he has a lot of value in fantasy football, and he is an asset that I've been reaching for a lot. When we're talking about reach of the week from Mike's Hard Lemonade, he's one of my biggest reaches this week.
I don't think we have to wait on him. I think he's going to be in the starting lineup immediately. They are just raving about him. I hate seeing these highlights all across my timeline because the price is getting pushed up. He's also one of those players where forget about the ADP. I have mentioned this. Both my drafts last week, I took him. I think it was like round 6, round 7. I don't care. And I did hear someone say after I took him, they had a partner and they were like, yeah, my partner said we should wait another round to get him. You can't do that anymore. Again, he's in a prime opportunity here. We have no timetable for Chris Godwin. I wouldn't expect him to be ready. He was taken in the first round. We've seen Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield rave about his IQ and how he's ready. Yeah. So this is a great opportunity. And he was taken in the first round. We were all like, wait, why is Tampa Bay taking him? We were hoping that he would get in a better landing spot. But we also saw Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They're older. They both dealt with injuries last year. This team runs a lot of 3 wide sets. So he's going to be in there. So, yeah, if you look at his ADP, you can't go by that because you're going to get burned. Someone else is going to take him. So I already have. We'll see. I might get priced out if it keeps going up. But at this point, 6th, 7th round, especially in drafts where receivers go heavy. Now, we know you don't need to do that in ESPN leagues, right? But
you don't.
If you are in a league where the receivers fly off the board, like he's in that wide receiver 3 range right now. He just is. And the ADP might not reflect it, but he is absolutely moving up draft boards. And I'm just hoping I get a few more because you know how it is. It gets to an insane level. The highlights are all over. People start talking about him, and then someone's going to reach for him even higher. So you were able to get him cheap over the beginning of draft season, whether you were drafting June, July.
Yep.
Over the last few weeks, we've started to see him rise. But, in that wide receiver 3 range, I'll take him, and I'm sometimes getting him. I think actually in that draft where I started, after I went a running back and 6 straight receivers, he was either my 5th or 6th. I mean, that is just, I'm going to do that every time.
That's a steal.
But it's going to get more difficult because I was seeing a lot of highlights across my timeline yesterday, and I was like, no, don't do this.
Like, people, be quiet.
Yeah,
I know.
It doesn't work like that anymore. But I agree. Like, he is the epitome of the reach, where if you're looking at his ADPs, it's not what's going on right now. Like, he's moving up. So I'm looking, this is not reflective of what's going on. I mean, over 100, it's not happening.
Yeah, no.
Underdog,
we'll 74.7. Yeah. I'm in the stacked league that I told you about, which everyone can go follow. I've been retweeting. You can follow it on Reddit as well. I'm super excited. But remember, I said a couple days ago, I said, I wasn't able to get him. I think it was the 6th round. And I said, I hope he comes back to me. No chance, Adam. He went at the turn. He went at the 6-7 turn. And it was like, I think that was also a steal. So
yeah, so I took him at 7-3 in the flex draft league over the weekend. So Yeah, that was actually my 6th receiver. Oh, just give me the championship now. No, I'm just kidding.
Just tell everyone to pay Adam Ronis right now. Your 6th receiver was Emeka Egbuka?
Yeah, but remember, I went one running back, 6 straight receivers, because again, it's all about the format. And in this format, you could start 3 flex spots. They could be, again, no required tight end, so you could flex the tight end. So I just bypassed the tight end and said I'm gonna go heavy receivers. So
yeah, I like it.
And then I think I took him in the host league draft too on Tuesday. Let me check that.
I just need to snipe him from you in our GST league, and I'll be happy. That's just all I need.
I probably won't get him there. There's probably people in that league listening, like, "Oh, I know he likes him. He's talking him up. I got to get him."
What are you talking about? Yeah, it's your.
So in the Sirius XM host league this past week, that was a super flex league. I got Egbuka at 9.5.
Okay.
As my 4th receiver. That league's 3 receivers, 1 flex, 1 super flex. So he will be in my starting lineup. I think he's going to play right away, especially if Godwin's out. You can put him in week 1.
Well, like you said, I mean, Emeka Egbuka, like I said, in early lineups, maybe we look at it, and that's if everything goes well, like you just said, for Chris Godwin. The more realistic case is that the Bucs offense is hopefully going to continue to be a high-powered offense, utilize those 3 wide receiver sets, like you said, as their base personnel. You have Chris Godwin, who struggles early or just isn't even able really to start. And then we never want to say it, but the other part of this is that Mike Evans is going to be 32 this year. We don't want injuries. We saw him get injured last season. Thankfully, he was able to come back, but we talk about the cliff, the wide receiver age cliff more specifically. And again, that's not me saying I think it's going to happen. I think Mike Evans is so steady, and we've seen him get those 1,000-yard seasons every single year. So not to say that, but he's got a lot of things that Emeka Egbuka does working for him, and I think that's the important part. It shouldn't be the Mike's Hard Reach of the week. It should be the Mike's Hard Reach of the season, really. It feels like we're not going to reach on someone as much as we are Emeka Egbuka this year.
And I think what happened in those 2 previous drafts, I don't know, I'm just guessing, that probably were other people in that draft that had a similar mindset as me, and they said, okay, let's see, how long can I wait? And I was like, nope, he's the highest guy on my board. I'm taking him out. I don't care what the ADP says, right? Because they probably could have been looking at that. He was definitely further down in the queue, and I was like, it don't matter. If you have that guy ranked the highest, again, you don't want to go like 3-4 rounds on ADP, but it gets to a certain point, especially as you approach the double-digit rounds, that you cannot worry about that. If you truly believe in that player, you take them.
Absolutely. That's why we say ADP is a guide. You don't always have to follow it, especially when I think the biggest thing that we've talked about so far this offseason and during this draft season, Adam, is how different ADPs are across different platforms. That's why we always have this tool up. And I know we say it to you guys a lot, but it's just so important to realize, like, when we're talking about guys like, just a difference in Brandon Ayuk, who we were talking about, just to give an example, because he's up on my screen right now. On Sleeper, he's going as pick 101, but if you're on ESPN, he's going pick 161. There are just huge differences for way more important players than Brandon Ayuk. So that's why it's so important when we say ADP is a guide, go get your guys, especially when you're looking at your rankings, your tiers, or you're looking at someone else's. Don't be afraid to pass up on some guys that you say, oh, well, these guys are right in line with ADP. They should be going here, but I want the guy that I scrolled down a little bit. And like you said, you don't go crazy. You don't go, 3 rounds early or anything like that, Adam, but it is so important to look across and just familiarize yourself with, if you're drafting on, CBS, and then you're doing one on Sleeper, and then you're doing one on Yahoo, just go and make sure you're looking at those ADPs, because they are just so drastically different, and you don't want to be caught up in that when you're drafting at them, because that's the worst feeling. It happened to me on DraftKings, and I was hoping I was prepared enough, but I wasn't, and I missed guys that I didn't scroll down on through the queue, and it was tough. So one of those things where, again, we're here to help, though. FantasyLife.com is always there for you as well. So make sure you go check out that ADP tool. If you want 20% off, give it to your friends, give it to your family, unless you don't want to, because you don't want them to win, then I understand that. But 20% off gets you, SXM20 gets you 20% off. So you can use that code for tier 1 or tier 2 Fantasy Life Plus subscriptions. We're going to continue on, but that was the Mike's Hard Reach of the week. Might be the Mike's Hard Reach of the year, Adam, because we don't want to play scared, and we don't want to miss out on Emeka Egbuka. So that's the guy that we are reaching for this week, especially. I want to talk about the ADP abyss. Speaking of ADPs, guys that we're looking at that have, they're going off the board 150 plus that we think you should keep an eye on. These are maybe sleepers, late round flyers, whatever you want to call them. We're going to go through those guys coming up next. The vibes, Adam, are immaculate. It's a Friday. We're talking about players that you can get towards the end of your drafts if you're looking at it through the ADP abyss. If we're diving down into the 150s, 150 plus, you've got a plethora of guys that you can pick from. Again, these could be guys that are your first waiver wire cut. If you have an injury, you're not necessarily expecting them to be these guys, especially in your starting lineups week one. But we always look for guys that have the potential. We talked about breakout players this week, how we identify them, and there's a lot that you can look from. It's kind of like I went to the Cheesecake Factory last night for the first not the first time, but it was probably my fourth time ever in my life. It's like having that many options. You got options at the end of your draft.
They do. The last time I was there, I was pretty pissed off because my cheesecake was too small. Did you get cheesecake? You have to, right?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not. I was so full. The portions.
Yeah, but you don't get it to
insane.
go? Like, how do you go to the Cheesecake Factory and not get cheesecake? Even if you're full, get it to go.
No, I'm not a huge cheesecake fan anyway. So I just they said, do you want a cheesecake to go? I said, no.
You got to say yes. Come on.
Okay, maybe next time. Anyway, I don't know why. I think I was trying to get in the,
a lot of options to choose from.
That menu
is massive. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I almost should have brought, things to mark my page down because I was like, where did this one meal go that I was just looking at? It's so many pages. Anyway, just like the Cheesecake Factory menu, you have great options at the end of your draft. I don't know it's a Friday. I don't know what's going on here. Let me mention a couple that I just want to bring up again. But more specifically, you've talked about Cedric Tillman here a little bit, and he's one that's going a little bit later. Had some questions on him, but if you look through his ADP, 178 on Sleeper, 165 on ESPN. The place where he's the most expensive, and that usually happens, is over on Underdog. So again, you talked about liking David Njoku. We're expecting maybe Joe Flacco to start the season, but there could be a little bit of a rotation at quarterback just because now they've got 5 guys that they signed to this team. So we'll see how many they keep, but later round wide receivers are harder to hit on, but we have talked a good amount about a Cedric Tillman, later in drafts being a good flyer.
Yeah, look, they are going to pass a lot, and we saw a stretch from Tillman last year before he got injured. It was a concussion, right? Yeah, it was a concussion with Tillman that ended his season. I was hoping he would come back. It did not happen, but, it looks like he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense. And, yes, people have trepidation about the Cleveland offense. That's why you're seeing, like, Judy and Njoku go a little bit later. And it's understandable because maybe this quarterback room across the board is a disaster and does hurt these guys. But that's why a guy like Tillman is going so late. But he had a nice stretch, a 4-game stretch of 40 targets, 3 touchdowns, at least 75 yards in 3 of them. So the talent is there. And again, there could be an opportunity here with them, especially playing from behind. And the good thing about Cedric Tillman, he has the same birthday as me. We're not the same age.
That'll do it.
But yes, April 19th for Cedric Tillman. No wonder why I feel like this energy.
That's why you guys are connected. That's why you just say, Kendall, every day I need us to talk about Cedric Tillman. Let's see how long we can go.
So I'll never forget his birthday again.
That's true. Neither should I, technically. But we'll see. Don't quiz me on that every day, but I'll be ready for it. He did, like you said, he averaged 18.1 points, 4 healthy games in the 2024 season, 22% target share, 40% of the end zone targets, which was huge with that Jameis Winston back there as quarterback. So again, quarterback concerns, there's target competition, but I think as a nice stash at wide receiver 6, Adam, there's no reason to just say, I don't love this offense, but you can at least get a guy that maybe is able to step up. I feel the same way about Kyle Williams. I think he's going a little bit too late. I understand. People might look and feel the same way about the New England Patriots, but I just think Kyle Williams going to pick 170 on ESPN, 143 on Sleeper. You got him at 150 on RT Sports, even the FFPC at 170. I'm trying to make sure, like Dwayne, when Dwayne talks about this a lot, but in some of these articles, like if I believe that Drake May could take a step forward, why would I not also believe or move Kyle Williams up my rankings a little bit because of that? I know that he is behind Stephon Diggs. And really, when we look at high-end target earners, though, this team doesn't really have it. So if we're talking about another wide receiver 6 kind of stash that has upside, I like Kyle Williams. I think he's going a little bit too late for what he could be doing.
Yeah, one of those drafts that I was mentioning, he was either the super flex or the host league. I took him in like round 15 or 16. So yeah, he's being discounted, and Yeah, you got Stephon Diggs there. Demario Douglas I like a lot, too.
Yeah, he's been getting some love, too.
Yeah, especially in PPR format. So, like, both those guys are cheap, and I'm open to taking either guys. Again, Williams brings a little bit of speed to the offense. That's what they were lacking. They just haven't had that speed the last couple of years. And, yeah, the Patriots' track record of drafting receivers hasn't been good, but it's mostly with Bill Belichick there. So, there's an opportunity there for Williams, and it's a late-round pick, especially if you believe in the Patriots' offense and Drake May. Williams, you would expect to play a part.
You didn't have to mention N'Keal Harry like that. We didn't have to go that far.
That's your guy. That's right.
That's why I'm trying to have some love for Arizona State players. Brandon Ayuk. I need Cam Scatterbu to do well.
It's not going well. They're all hurt. They're all soft.
Stop. I know. Get out of here. What is you know what? You can do this last segment on your own. I'm out. I can't do it. But I will do it because we're professionals here and we're gonna keep going on. We've got preseason games. Just gonna mention some of the guys that we're watching out for this weekend, and yeah, we're gonna do that for the preseason games here coming up next. It is Friday. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. And while you were on your way to lunch and not returning to work, make sure you lock in, though, because you've got RotoWire Fantasy Sports Today coming up next. And we've got football this weekend, Adam. It's a great time. It is the best time of the year. We are in full draft season. We are watching these preseason games, not necessarily trying to overreact unless it's, Torrey Horton. Then we will overreact and say that you should get him everywhere. But anyone specifically this weekend, Adam, I'm watching JJ McCarthy. I know it's not going to be for a long time, but we had a small sample last season. And I if we get to see any JJ McCarthy this weekend, I'm excited about it.
That is definitely something I'm looking forward to. Shador Sanders tonight. Let's go.
Yes.
Want to see
I
that.
like that one. Yeah. Travis Hunter too. He's probably going to be big focal point. By the way, I tweeted out that article. If you all weren't here, we had a question on Travis Hunter and IDP leagues and when you should take him. But there was a great article by Jonathan Fuller just about how the different scoring settings across different platforms are going to do that with Travis Hunter. So find that at Valenzuela 17 at Adam Ronis as well. He retweeted it. But yeah, Travis Hunter this weekend as well. He's going to be splitting time between wide receiver and cornerback.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt he plays too much, but yeah, it's definitely a big thing for those that play in IDP leagues, and different sites are handling it differently. So you want to be alert and aware in case you play in that format.
Anyone else? I feel like we're missing something. Maybe not. Do we see Jaden Blue this weekend or no?
Well, he got injured yesterday.
Yeah, he's injured.
So I think they said it was a heel. So yeah, I was looking forward to see him.
A bruise, I believe it is.
Yeah, so my guess is we won't see him because they play Saturday, 7 p.m.
It'll be exciting nonetheless. We've got football back. We're watching some of these guys. You guys are all going to fantasylife.com. As always, use that promo code SXM20. Gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription for fantasylife.com. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Adam will be at the beach this weekend. I'll be eating my Cheesecake Factory leftovers for like 5 days. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you same time on Monday.